Hi everybody, and welcome back to the channel again today. So we're going to do the second part of a series of 3 videos, okay, which is basically about the price of housing. Now yesterday we did the south of England, okay. Today we're going to do the north of England, okay. So we're going to do how much houses cost on average in different cities, because I've been moaned at for not doing specific locations and just did a broad spectrum across the north of England. And we're also going to do rental, okay. And there were a few surprises. I was actually surprised myself how expensive some locations are to rent. More surprised than when it comes to buy, because the reality is, and this is the irony. When you look across the north of England and you take locations, and I've taken locations from the west coast of north of England, from places like Blackpool, Liverpool, Manchester, I know it's a bit inland, places like that, all the way through Yorkshire, through South Yorkshire, West Yorkshire, into North Yorkshire, up into Tyne and Wear. So we've gone even Humberside, we've taken places like Hull and Middlesbrough and Newcastle. Broad spectrum, okay. So what did I learn? Quite a lot, to be honest, when I took a look at the prices. Now, to be fair to the north of England, we originally had Sunderland in there, and then I took them out because everybody's going to. And the only reason I took Sunderland out is nothing against Sunderland. People in Sunderland are lovely. I've been to Sunderland before. My father used to live near there. He used to live in Seaham. And the only reason I took Sunderland out was because of the house prices. The house prices up in Sunderland on average are around about £130,000. And it tanked the average price of the north of England, which is what everybody keeps on moaning at me about. Okay, so it drops it down to 197,000. And the reality is, if you compared the whole of the north of England as a whole, the average house price in the north of England is normally considered 196, 198,000 based on last year, not taking into account any house price increases this year. Last year, 196 to 198,000. So I took Sunderland out. And what did I do? Somebody said to me, go and put Harrogate in. I thought, Harrogate, lovely place. Never been there. Not really spent a lot of time in Yorkshire in my life. I've probably spent about 10 days in Yorkshire in my entire life. I thought, what problem could putting Harrogate put in? I soon learnt a hard lesson about Harrogate and how expensive Harrogate really is. Okay, so that boosted the overall average up to 214,000, which is a lot less than Yorkshire. I mean, the south of England at £404,000. So let's go and take a look at what the results ended up being. So first place we've got on the list over in the northwest is Bolton, with the average house price at £218,000 and the average rent, and this is based on 3-bedroom houses, okay, at £786. Okay, so to be honest, pretty cheap compared to the south of England. Not the cheapest. Okay, right, then we go over to Bradford. Now, I've always taken Bradford as quite a cheap place. Now, my mum has family in Bradford. I actually remember spending a week in Bradford as a child. Okay, and I always knew Bradford was quite cheap to actually buy, because I remember looking on, I think it was Rightmove, and seeing that you could buy 3-bedroom house, terraced house, about 70, 80 grand. And this is only a few years ago. It's not very long ago. Probably about 4 or 5 years ago I had a look. Now the average house price in Bradford currently is 155,000, with the average rent at 695. And I thought that was going to be one of the cheapest. How wrong was I? Because next we come to the place I mentioned, Harrogate. How wrong can I be about the north of England? You know, I got proven I'm an idiot. Thinking, north of England's cheap. How expensive can the north of England be? Until somebody says to me about Harrogate. Okay. Now, I've never been to Harrogate. Knew nothing about Harrogate. I actually ended up phoning up my father-in-law, who comes from Yorkshire. He actually comes from South Yorkshire. I said to him, you know, something special about Harrogate. Is it got lots of rich people? Are there millionaires living there? Or, you know, it's the banking sector or something like that, or insurance companies in Harrogate? Just no. This is pretty green. So I said, why on earth is the average house price in Harrogate £370,000? 370 grand. Okay. And to make things worse, I thought, well, maybe rental prices will be a bit cheaper. How wrong can you be yet again? Over £1,300 to rent in Harrogate. I thought that was an absolute joke. I thought they'd made a mistake. You know, and to give you an example, okay, because I've still got the prices for the south of England. So the average house price at 370 grand. That beats on the south coast. And remember, the south is considered way more expensive than the north. That beats Bognor Regis, Dover, Eastleigh, Maidstone, which is less than 60 miles from London. It's less than 40 miles from London. Okay, beats Portsmouth, which is only about 10 miles from where I live. Salisbury, Taunton, Weymouth. Okay, so it beats 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 locations out of 16. Out of the 16 places I checked, it beats 8 locations. Little old Harrogate, well, it's not little. It's got a population of about 160,000. So what I would like for somebody is to message me in the comments and tell me why Harrogate is so expensive. Is it becoming the new London? Because I can't understand this. I really can't. And you can say it's because I'm a southerner. You know, I was born and bred. Yes, my family, my mum's side of the family come from London. I mean, not London. God, you shoot me for saying that. Come from Yorkshire, North Yorkshire. My wife's father's side of the family, they come from South Yorkshire. Nobody's perfect, especially being a Leeds supporter. I hope nobody from Leeds is watching this today, especially as I haven't got my Forest shirt on. Okay, so I want somebody to explain to me why Harrogate is so expensive, because I can't understand. Okay, but we'll move on. So next, we've got good old Hull. Old East Riding, now Humberside. Okay, average house price, 189 grand. Pretty cheap for rental. I'll tell you what, you could barely get a studio room down on the south coast for this. £509. Christ, God, what a bargain! Either in Hull they got no jobs, all the landlords are extremely generous. It's one or the other. So yet again, somebody let me know the answer to that fundamental question. Which is it? Landlords are generous, or they're there's no jobs or anything there. Next, couldn't believe this one. Remember, my father-in-law's a Leeds supporter. Nobody's perfect. I have told them that many times, and so is my daughter. My eldest daughter's a Leeds supporter. Christ, God, I get to enjoy mocking her, especially being a Forest supporter. Leeds housing, £280,000, £1,095 to buy. Now, I have been told there's been a lot of development up in Leeds over recent years, and that is the reason why it's got expensive. But then we come to Liverpool. Liverpool, 187 grand, £819 to rent. We won't make any of the jokes that famous comedians have made back in the 70s and 80s about using how you clean the windows. You won't using it with water or a sponge or any of that. So on we go to Manchester. Now this doesn't surprise me, mainly because a lot of businesses come from the south of England to go to Manchester, the likes of the BBC and lots of other things. So it doesn't surprise me with the house prices for Manchester being up at 251 grand. And it doesn't surprise me that renting is pretty high at just under £1,300. Okay, now the lowest on the list that we've got of the 16 locations is Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough comes rock bottom for house for buying. So whether that's because they've got a big problem there, jobs are going, nobody's got jobs, nobody's looking at buying, so house prices are suffering. 143 grand. It's pretty much a bargain. So if you're looking at investing, place to go up to Middlesbrough. Especially if you're planning on renting it out, because the house prices for renting aren't that bad really. They're not at the lowest. They're probably somewhere in between, you know, because the average rental is 786 quid. Okay, so it's not too bad. But then I wonder, because you got Middlesbrough, which is very cheap, Sunderland was very cheap, and then you come to Newcastle, it's only a few miles up the road north, and Newcastle's 211 grand. Now I appreciate they've just won the Carabao Cup. Surely that can't be the reason. Just because they've won a trophy for the first time in what, 50 or 60 years for their football team. Can't be all the Newquay brown ale that they're drinking and are not bringing down to me. And it's the same with their rentals. Rental prices, yet again, another place in the north of England which can compete with the south in a few locations at just over £1,000. Now, it tends to be the same trending thing. No matter where you go, okay, you're looking at anywhere from about 150 to 250,000, even if you go to Chester. Okay, and all the rental prices are £600 to £800, no matter where you go across the north of England. You know, the average rental in the north of England is 866 quid from one location to the next, to the next, to the next. Okay. Yes, there's a few locations which are surprising to me. You know, the likes of York, £1,100 to rent. Newcastle, just over £1,000. Manchester, just under £1,300. Leeds, just under £1,100. And Harrogate, just ridiculous, 1,300 quid. You know, so there are a few locations, and it goes with our house prices as well, okay, where it is really expensive in the north. But unfortunately, that does not compare as a general rule to the south of England, whether you're within 60 miles of London or I don't know how far Taunton is. We'll say 150 miles. I don't know. Okay, I'll be honest. Without going on to Google or something to double check how far it is, I can't tell you. Okay, doesn't matter. You still have the fundamental problem, no matter how far away, because you're on the south coast. Okay, so the reality is there are places in the north of England where you can get a really good deal. Middlesbrough, you're going to get cheap prices. If you was to move wherever you are, whether you're in Scotland, Wales, whether you're in the Midlands, if you want to move to the north of England, I can give you a list of places. Bradford, 155 grand, cheap. Liverpool, 187 grand. Had a lot of things done in recent years. Middlesbrough, 143 grand. Preston, 152 grand. Rotherham, go to South Yorkshire, 171,000. Wigan, 189 grand. And Blackpool, another place I've never been to. Never been to Lights, never been to the Tower. £176,000. Average house price out of them straight across them with M16 locations, 214 grand. So basing it on that, if you actually compare the north versus the south, and I've got fed up of doing this, to be honest, comparing north versus south, because it's not a fair comparison. You know, everybody talks about the north-south divide, and if you in the south of England, everybody will say there is not a north-south divide. There is a north-south divide. And the north-south divide is simple as this. As a general rule, if you're in the north of England, you will pay less for rent. You will pay less in the way of house prices, but you will earn less more as a general rule. Okay. There are certain jobs where you'll be on par, especially if you're in the public sector. Okay. And there are some others where you'll be on par with the south of England. And I managed to find one where you earn more, which was as a data analyst. And this is the comparison. In the south of England, you will pay more in the way of house prices and you will pay more in the way of rent. 9 times out of 10. Okay, so virtually most of the locations I've got are right by the sea. They're not all by the sea, some of them are inland. But the reality is you're going to pay more in the way of house prices and you're going to pay more in the way of the rent. So, as an example, if you was in Southampton, okay, which is where I grew up, I lived there up until I was in my 30s before I got taken ill. My mum had to care for me. Okay, average house price is £395,000. Okay, 395 grand. 3-bedroom house that would be, semi-detached. That's not a new build. Okay, that's an average 3-bedroom semi-detached house in the city of Southampton. Okay, now going by the whole list, there's not a single place in the north of England, you know, and I've got places like Chester, I've got Liverpool, I've got Harrogate, you know, I've got Leeds, all high house prices. Not one of them beats Southampton. The only way that they can beat Southampton is on rental price. Okay, so none of them. So the most expensive is Harrogate at 370 grand. The only way Harrogate can beat Southampton is on rental price, where they charge on average £1,329, and in Southampton it's just under £1,200. And the only other place that beats Southampton on rental is Manchester. Okay, and we're just going to double check if there's anywhere else which is nice enough to beat it. 1,001. No, that's it. You got Harrogate and you got Manchester. That can only beat it on that. So, for all these people that want to say there isn't a north-south divide, there is. So, if you're a southerner and you don't want to be paying high house prices, if you've already got equity, then there is an argument to sell up and you can move to the north of England. And you could arguably bank a lot of money to go up there with. That's reality. There's no hiding away from that. If you're renting, it's not entirely quite as an attractive proposition, depending on where you're going, what you do for a living, and the lifestyle that you want. Because there isn't always that much in it. You know, if, say, for instance, you're in somewhere like Bournemouth or Brighton, or Horsham, or maybe Maidstone, then as a general rule, you are going to be saving money, but not a great deal amount of money, especially if you take it over a 12-month period. You're not going to save that much money by moving north. There are some places that you could, but as a general rule, you're not going to. But if you're selling up and you're selling your home, then you can. Okay, now this isn't about trying to make out that the south is overpriced and the north is dirt cheap, because it's not. It's proven that there are some places where people have said, yeah, in the north of England it can be expensive, and they're right. There are places, but as a general rule, there's a massive difference. You're talking about, from the information that I've taken, you're talking about £200,000 difference, and this isn't even taking London into it. If you bring London into it, you go into another league at the end of the day. So what I'm going to say today, let us know what you think. Okay, so nobody bother messaging me saying, oh yeah, but you're just doing it as a region. We've looked at lots of locations. Nothing changes really. Not as a great deal. Not unless you want to rent. If you want to rent, it's a different kettle of fish. If you're buying, I hate to say this, but your quid's in as a general rule, as long as you stay away from Leeds, you stay away from Harrogate, and you stay away from York. Those three places are the places you want to stay away from if you move from the south to the north of England, if you want to bank a lot of money and live, if it's retirement or you're running your own digital business, maybe you're a YouTuber or a TikToker or something like that, and you just want a quiet life, being able to get on with your life, but want a lot of money in the bank, that's what you do. So thanks for watching for now. Let us know what you think, but for now we'll speak to you a bit later, and if obviously you are new to the channel, please do subscribe as well.